Hi guys, we just want to address a few comments that were received about Gypsy being incapable of her own mother.
I don't have it in me to kill her.
I'm not the one that committed the act of the kill.
We all hear Gypsy go on and on about how she's not the one that committed the act of the kill.
Yeah.
And how she could never do that. She hates the sight of blood. And yeah, apparently she could never do it.
Now just remember guys, that Gypsy, she picked up a gun and shot her mother 10 times.
Yep.
10 times.
And before you say it was a BB gun, remember,
She did not
she
know.
thought it was a real gun when she did it.
I pulled the trigger as many times as I could.
He shot her mum 10 times thinking she was going to kill her mum. She already tried killing her mum.
And when that didn't work, what did she do? She hired a hitman.
Yep.
She hired a hitman, and that's where Nick came into the picture.
And it wasn't because she was scared.
No.
I reckon she did it and then it hit her like, oh, I would have got done for murder. I think that's when her whole plan really started, was then.
Do you know what I find interesting, guys, is that usually if we do something wrong, we feel remorse,
Yeah.
we are scared, and we are reluctant to move on and do it again. Not Gypsy. Not Gypsy. She thought, oh my God, this did not work. I need to hire someone who can make it work for me.
She obviously did it in the heat of the moment. She was angry. She wanted to kill her mum. And I think she realised in that moment, she really did want to kill her mum, but she didn't want to get caught for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I think, my personal opinion is that she concocted this whole plan to try and lure somebody to do it for her.
Mm-hmm.
And that someone was Nick.
Exactly. And I don't think this was the first person that she chose
No.
to kill her mother. I feel like she chose and went through a few people and thought, okay, he's not gullible. He can't do it. And Nick came across. His intellectual ability wasn't extremely high.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to say this, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Gypsy's intellect is extremely, extremely high from a very young age.
Especially for someone who apparently didn't finish school at the time, like she was homeschooled.
Where's your cranial? Very good. And where's your findalis?
Her mother must have spent a lot of time educating Gypsy because this girl is so incredibly smart. The way she talks, the way she can answer questions so quickly.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. She's a mastermind. Unlike Nick, he doesn't answer questions quickly like Gypsy.
Exactly.
She was on her A game, she was on the ball, and she knew exactly what she was doing the whole time.
100%. In all of her interviews, she keeps saying how she needed help with this abuse, and if she had told anyone else about it, then they would have said go to the police. I don't believe that. For starters, she didn't know she was being abused. So that's a load of lie there.
Yeah.
And secondly, yeah, you're right. If you'd gone to anyone else, they would have stood up and said, let's go to the police. I reckon they did. I reckon
yeah.
you went to more people, Gypsy. I reckon you went to multiple guys, said the same story to each guy until you found the one that said, oh, all right, I'll kill your mum, instead of going to the police. That's what
agree.
I think.
I completely and utterly agree with that, Mars. Now let's touch back on your sentence that you said, Marzi, about how Gypsy had no idea that she was being abused.
Well, that's it. Now, this is one of the things that really sticks out to me. Right now, in the current day, present day, she is saying the reason she had to kill her mother is because of the abuse she suffered. Now, in multiple statements along all these different interviews, she keeps saying she wasn't even aware she was being abused until after her mother passed away. After. So what was her motive if her mother was being the loving, caring mother that she actually thought she was? She just thought her mother was a little overbearing.
Overprotective.
Yeah, so why would you want your mother if you think your mum is doing the right things by you?
Her mother
Now-
was taking her to Disneyland.
Yeah.
You know, her mother was taking her to the movies to see
Yep.
Cinderella. Her mother spent a lot of time with her. In her video footage, she's spending a lot of time laughing with her mother. You know, her mother's teaching her, educating her. That's why she's so smart, guys. She's naturally gifted, I think she is.
Yep,
But
and-
her mother spent a lot of time educating her.
Yes.
So, you know, there was no lack of love there.
No,
There was no
and you
lack
have
of
to
love.
remember, yes, she was abusing her with all these medicines and surgeries, but Gypsy thought she needed it. She thought she had cancer. She thought she had all these multiple issues with her. The only issues that she knew she didn't need was the fact that she could walk, so she didn't need the wheelchair, and the fact that she could eat, so she didn't need the feeding tube. Every other issue she had, she thought she had leukemia. That's why she needed the shaved head, because she thought she actually had cancer.
So what is the motive, Gypsy? What is the motive? Is the motive the fact that you weren't allowed a boyfriend? Is that the only motive that you have in
That's the
killing your
only
mother?
thing I can see.
Yeah.
Is that your mummy wouldn't let you date, and instead of being an adult that you were, you decide to kill your mum.
I agree. There's no other reasons why she would have her mother.
No.
There's none.
Because
Do you know what I
she
mean?
thought it wasn't abuse. She thought her mum actually cared.
I want to make sure I say this too, just in case Gypsy comes back at me. I know you didn't kill your mother. I want to make that loud and clear.
You
I know,
orchestrated it.
but you orchestrated
You
your mother's...
orchestrated it.
Yeah, I just want to make that aware because otherwise
Yeah.
she's going to come back and say, I never killed her and sue us. You know what I mean? I don't know what she would do. I'm very fearful of Gypsy. I have to be honest with you. I know her personality type and I know she'll come back at me at tenfold. So I've got to be very careful on what I say. Don't know, Mars. I always sound
But
like
we're
I can't
not
say
saying we're not saying anything that's not false that she hasn't said in the media.
Everything that we've said, we've made sure.
We're just putting the
Came from Gypsy's
pieces
mouth.
together that what she stated.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it took her 3 years to lure a guy in and convince him to kill her mother. 3 years she was speaking to Nick. 3 years to orchestrate this plan. She could have spent 3 years to orchestrate a plan to move away, to
Get herself out of the
expose her
situation.
mother.
Yeah.
3 years is a long time to plan a murder.
The bitch is dead.
Like I said in my previous videos, guys, I really believe that Gypsy is a thrill seeker. She spent 3 years planning the death of her mother and researching it in different ways. Like one of the ways was cyanide. She researched poison to poison her mother.
Started looking at some different poisons. We went looking at arson.
Like this is what kept her awake at night. How do I kill my mother? What are methods I can use on my mother?
Exactly.
Like who thinks like this? Who goes to bed dreaming of ways to kill your mother?
Exactly. And she keeps saying it was just plan B, plan B. It was a very elaborate plan B, I have to say. I mean, plan A wasn't very elaborate.
No.
There was no plan except meeting some guy in a theatre. That's not much of a plan A.
No.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of other plans you could have come up with that could have got you out of this situation if you wanted to.
She even
really.
thought of like a candle, you know, catching a light and
Yeah.
burning her mother in flames. Like, this
Yeah.
is just ridiculous what kept her awake thinking of ways to kill her mother for 3 years.
Yeah.
This was orchestrated, guys. I'm going to tell you now.
Yeah.
This is not a naive girl.
No.
This is not the way that we have painted her in
She
society.
said, if you truly love me, you'd be willing to do this for me.
Keep saying that it is Nick that manipulated her. I really strongly believe it's the other way around. Because Nick is the one that has the actual mental illness. He's the one that actually has a low IQ.
Exactly. I know I keep harping on the fact that Gypsy Rose is a very, very smart girl, but you watch her testimony. She can just talk without even thinking.
Yeah.
They ask her a question and she just answers, just
Yeah.
like that. No thought provided.
No.
She's gifted. She's a very
She's
smart
very
girl.
rehearsed. She's done this so many times. She's thought it through for a long time. I mean, she's had 10 years in prison, or 8 years, I should say, in prison to think about what she's going to say. And she's had interview upon interview. And she knows what she's saying at a drop of a hat.
I only used the one card that I have over you.
I know her mother was terrible to her. Please let me reiterate that. I know her mother was absolutely awful to her, and no one
But
deserves
she,
what she went
again,
through.
didn't know her
She
mum
did
was
not know
awful
this.
to her.
Exactly.
She's giving us stories now that her mother, the things that her mother has done. And I just want to remind everyone, every one of these stories have not been fact-checked. We have to remember these stories are from her mouth and her mouth only. Her mother, unfortunately, is not here to give us a different account of these stories. And I'm not saying that she's lying. I'm just saying that it's just her words, and I don't really like to take people from face value without some sort of factual evidence.
There's nothing I wouldn't do for her.
Let's just all remember, guys, that Gypsy herself has said that she is a master liar and that she's been taught very easily to manipulate people. It comes second nature to her.
She's learnt from the very best.
Yeah.
She's learnt from the very, very best.